Good morning. We're back to regular services from canceling them last week because of Hurricane Irene. So our theme today is anger, more specifically managing anger. So let's see what the Bible has to say on the matter of God's anger and ours. God has provoked him to anger by many times in the Bible, by people's hearts going astray, Hebrews 3:10, or following others, Deuteronomy 6:11, idly among God is provoked to anger many times in the Bible by people's hearts going astray, Hebrews 3:10, or following other gods, Deuteronomy 6:11, or idolatry among his people, the golden calf in Exodus 32:9-10. Again and again, people's sin provokes God to anger, wrath. Even likewise, Jesus was provoked to anger by the stubborn hearts of the Pharisees. In Mark chapter 3, Jesus wants to heal a man on the Sabbath, but they are more concerned about their own laws than about God's compassion. It says Jesus looked around at them in anger and deeply distressed at the stubborn, heartfelt hearts he healed the man. On another occasion, Jesus drove the moneylenders out of the temple with a whip because they were defying his Father's house. Jesus had just cause to be angry, and being Jesus, expressed it appropriately. Other people are rightly angry in the Bible as well. For example, Moses was also angry about the golden calf incident, and when reading Galatians, it's hard to miss Paul's anger about the false teachings of the church. Can you spot a theme here? There are things it is right to be angry about. The same things that God is angry about. He thinks the things that dishonor him. In each case, the result was constructive. God came up with a plan of salvation. Jesus was spurred on the heel. Despite the Pharisees, and to clear his Father's house, Paul was motivated to write his letter to the Galatians and defend God's truth. There are causes it is right to get angry about, and right responses to that anger. But as I said in the introduction, we far more often get it wrong than right. Our anger. So what about our anger? What provokes us to anger, and how do we deal with it? I'd like you to think for a moment about the last thing or two that you were really angry. What provoked you to anger? Why were you angry? And what did you do about it? How did you express your anger? So in the light of that exercise, would you describe yourself as a spewer or a stewer? There are two main ways in which people respond to their anger. The spewers just spew it out over whoever provoked them. A spewer is someone with a hot temper, a short fuse, someone who sees red. It's what we see regularly on the football pitch. The frustrated players who suddenly explode and start verbally or physically abusing the referee or one of the opposition. Unfortunately, this kind of behavior is not confined to the football pitch. We often see it is the world around us. For example, in road rage, I've seen apparently sane and rational people do the most appalling and dangerous things on the roads at trivial provocation. I've seen people injure themselves by punching walls and smashing windows in their rage.
Yes.
Or what about taking out one's frustration on some poor call center employee who had nothing to do with what's gone wrong?
Guilty.
When the faceless institutions have messed us around, we sometimes just want to snap, don't we? But it's a clearly inappropriate thing to do, and which of us haven't seen in the supermarket a parent yelling with fury at their child? Do you often have to go at someone? If so, then you are probably a spewer. This is the advice of Proverbs to the spewers amongst us. A fool gives full vent to his anger, but a wise man keeps himself under control. Wrath and further on an angry man stirs up dissension, and a hot-tempered one commits many sins. Spewing out our feelings, letting it all out, giving full vent to our anger is a foolish thing to do. It is far too easy, leads us into sin. How many of us haven't said something we regret in the heat of the moment? Or needlessly destroyed something, a possession or a relationship?
Guilty. Guilty.
Giving full vent to our anger really does make a fool out of us. So a fool gives full vent to his anger, but a wise man keeps himself under control. That's fair enough, but we also need to beware of the opposite extreme. We are not to be spewers, but we are not to be stewers either. A stewer is someone who bottles up his or her anger trying to bury it, apparently self-controlled. This kind of person is smoldering on the inside. But the Bible has a warning for stewers as well. The passages we had read earlier from Ephesians says, "In your anger do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry. And do not give the devil a foothold." You see, anger rarely goes anywhere by itself. It is not made better by ignoring it. Stewing in our anger, nursing our grievances will lead us into sin just as surely as venting our anger does. For it gives the devil a foothold. I have to confess to you that I am much more of a stewer than a spewer. I rarely give full vent to my anger in the heat of the moment. Frankly, I am not brave enough. What tends to happen is that I will interlace my rage, I'll pick over it and revisit it, my anger growing, but still bottled up inside. When I am truly angry, it is hard to think about anything else. The anger doesn't go away. It is like a poison, and then my thoughts turn to revenge, which is when the devil really gets a foothold. I can become obsessed with going over and over again how I can get my own back. It's ugly, isn't it?
Yeah.
My anger turns me into the opposite of someone who loves, because he keeps no record of wrongs. As an example of this, someone a while ago, I was not I burned with rage inside. I happen to remember the number plate. Okay, we'll skip that. So this is the danger of stewing in our anger. It poisons our relationships with unforgiveness. It leads us to hatred, and it can make us depressed as internal worlds are disordered by it. These things are what happens when we give the devil a foothold in our lives. So the verse says, "Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry." Somehow we need to find a constructive way of dealing with our anger, which is neither of our usual tendencies of spewing or stewing. First, the spewer needs to learn some self-control, how to avoid giving full vent to his or her anger. As Proverbs said, "Better a patient man than a warrior," a man who controls his temper than one who takes a city. The spewer must practice the habit of thinking first and speaking later. As the Apostle James said, everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. For man's anger does not bring about the righteous life that God desires. Thinking first and speaking later is a good habit to have in any case, for as Proverbs says, even a fool is thought wise if he keeps silent, and discerning if he holds his tongue. But it's not that easy to hold your tongue when the anger is boiling up inside, is it? Some people recommended the Nassau technique. Make sure you count down from 10 before you blast off. Personally, I prefer to practice the fruit of the Spirit, which is Galatians chapter 5. The subject, when in danger of exploding, I try to remember to recite love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and self-control. It is a pretty good anecdote, isn't it? It's humbling when we realize that our venting our rage is the exact opposite of the fruit that the Spirit is trying to grow in us. And to close today, this is what Jesus did with his anger. It motivated him to heal on the Sabbath. It motivated him to try to keep his Father's house undefiled. Maybe God has put the kind of anger in your heart, that the kind of passion, in which case, go with it. Use the energy, but take great care, and you stay close to God, as our passions all too easily make us astray. As the Revised Standard Translation puts it, be angry, but do not sin. And with our benediction, Pastor Jessica.
One of the small things to remember, the animals are a victim of the anger that we get. Sometimes they end up hurt. Look at the recent episode on the news. A woman had gone ahead and stabbed someone's beloved pet. So there's a lot of anger, even going ahead taking out your anger to someone else's beloved animal just because you're not getting your way.
Good point.
As I put it, anger is a wasted emotion. It causes nothing but problems. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to sin. Learn another way to deal with anger. You can't do without it. Never say things you never meant, as the other pastor has mentioned. It only, like I said, it only leads to hurt. Be kind, and learn that anger is a horrible weapon we should never, ever touch. When angry, try music or speaking to a loved one or a priest of why you're very angry. Try talking it out. Don't scream at each other. Don't throw things at each other. Don't take it out on the pets. Just very calmly deal with it. Don't go berserk. Never allow anger and hate to build. Just don't let it do it, because you'll end up like hurting somebody or something. Or try reading the Bible. The Bible gives you a lot of answers. God always has a choice for dealing with hate and anger. As from the Bible, but I tell you that everyone who is angry with his brother will he subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to his brother is answerable to sin, is answerable to hell. But everyone who says you fool will be in danger of the fire of hell. Matt 5:22. And seriously, don't get angry with each other. Try to work it out. Thank you.